Thank you for joining the Collaboration Culture podcast. We'll be with you in about 2 minutes. Go ahead and grab your cup of coffee or your favorite drink and get comfortable and cozy, ready for tonight's show with these dynamic
Welcome to the Collaboration Culture Podcast. We will be starting the show in just a moment. Go ahead and love, tag, and share while you wait. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Good evening, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to another episode of the Collaboration Culture Podcast. I am your host, Kimberly Winborne of Kimberly Winborne, LLC and Coffee and Collaborations Media. Today, we are joined by Ryan Ray and Jay Joseph, two financial experts who we will be talking this evening, giving you your dose of money medicine. So we are not physically around the table, but that's the concept of being around the table, talking about the stuff that we need to be talking about, should have been talking about amongst our families, but maybe didn't. So tonight we're going to get our dose of medicine to help us just by maybe getting a bit of information that you didn't know before. Good evening, Iris. Please go on, everyone, like, tag, well, I say love, tag, and share someone who you know that you've been talking to them about doing a bit better in 2022 and beyond when it comes to finances. And maybe in this conversation, they'll be able to gain some information to help them to improve in that space. So I want to bring up, so I put their bios in the welcome invitational post. So you would already know a little bit about these fellas. So we could just dive right into the conversation. But I do want to give them an opportunity to share a little bit about themselves in the sense of why they do what they do and how it impacts the lives of, maybe a little quick story, how it impacts the lives of people that they get to run into every day. So we'll start with Jay Joseph.
All right, that'll be me. First, we thank you everyone for tuning in and investing that thing we call time, which is your most valuable resource with us today. So, Jay Joseph, what do I do? To sum it up, I actually help people imagine, institute, and invest in several and multiple streams of income to build wealth in order to achieve this thing what we call financial independence. I always grew up not under. I always had the verbiage stated to me that money doesn't grow on trees. But the thing is, they never told me where it grew. So I went on the path to understand what money is, how money works, and how to make money work for me. And it led me to where I'm at now, totally financially independent, retired before the age of 40, and sharing my knowledge, my wisdom my experience with everyone that has a desire to do better financially. And I thank you guys for tuning in with us tonight. And that's my goal to teach you tonight.
Awesome. Thank you, Jay. We are so excited to have you. And then, so next up, we're going to have Ryan Ray. And so, Ryan, if you could tell us a little bit as well about why you are in the financial space, what you're doing. I know you have a workshop. Well, I don't know if you call it a workshop, but faith focused finance right after. Okay, right after this. And so tell us a little bit about how you got into finance and how you've been able to impact the lives of some of the people you've run across.
Sure. Well, thank you, Kimberly, for the opportunity to be here. It's a privilege to share this space with my man, Jay. He's the expert. I'm the knucklehead who did it all wrong and lived a hard knock life, got frustrated with the results I was having, realized that if I didn't change something, nothing would change. And so I got hungry, realized that I could learn on my own what I needed to learn to then create the lifestyle that I desired. And so I just went on an information hunt, and that led me to some incredible mentors who, again, taught me if you do this and do that, these are some results that you can get. And so, I just simply realized that if I didn't know that information, so many others may not as well. And so it's just been a passion of mine. I really believe purpose, actually, to go out and teach people some of these principles, these laws that govern success around finances, so that people can get better results in their lives and experience that thing that Jay called freedom, which is what I believe we're all in search of.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, anybody in the audience that is not in search of freedom, go ahead and tell us that lie. We're all in search of freedom in one form or fashion, right? And so one of the things that I want to ask you real quick, Ryan, before we move forward, and Jay, you can chime in as well, with faith-focused finances, how are you implementing faith? Because I love this. How are you implementing that into the model of your classes and workshops?
Sure. I mean, it's biblically based principles, right? I mean, there's nothing new under the sun. Everything that we apply to our lives that get us results, that get us success, it's probably principle centered, right? There's some law that has governed that. And there's the source of that is the Bible, is scripture, right? Again, it's foundational. And so, but applying faith, right? This idea that I have no idea what I'm doing and there's no guarantees, I'm just going to take action, requires a certain amount of belief in those laws and principles that govern success. And so we encourage people to apply those laws and those principles to their life. And in applying that faith consistently over time, that's where you guarantee results, right? There's a lot of methods and trends and tactics out there in the world today. And those things are futile, right? They're short-lived. But you want to get results, apply principles to your life because they transcend time. The things that we're talking about today, they were applying hundreds, thousands of years ago. And so that's where the faith focus on the faith component and attach that to your finances and your guaranteed results. That's the only thing that's the only place I'll give you a guarantee.
Yes.
You apply those principles to your life.
Jay, how do you apply them? Or is that a component or proponent of something in your business? Let me unmute you. Go ahead.
Of course. Number one, in the Bible, there's more scriptures about money than any other concept. Ryan just mentioned there's nothing new under the sun. Think about one of my introductions. I said I help people create multiple streams of income in order to build wealth, so we can achieve financial freedom. Well, check out Ecclesiastes chapter 11, verse 1 and 2. What does it tell us to do? It tells us to spread our grain across the sea. For one day it should come back to us. Invest in 7, yet 8 ventures, because you never know the desolations of the land. What is that? Multiple streams of income. So when we talk about money, the money is portrayed so many ways, so many principles inside of the Bible. And if we take those biblical scriptures, like everything we do when it comes to money is in the Bible. An example, when I tell people you need to invest, a lot of people save to save. That's wrong. We need to save to invest.
Right.
But the Bible tells us in the scriptures about the parable, he gave 3 main talents, 1 5, 1 2, 1 1. All right. The individual with the 5 invested and doubled. The individual with 2 talents invested and doubled. But the individual with 1 talent, what did he do? He took it, he hid it, and he put it under the ground, under his mattress, how we do it nowadays. And guess what? This is where the concept comes from. The richer get richer, the poor get poor. He took it from the individual that did not invest in what gave it to those that did have. So yet again, this is what people need to invest. This is a principle-based scripture. Everything that dealing with finances comes from the Bible. So let's make sure we don't overlook those principles. Me and Ryan and I are here to share our experience and our knowledge to make sure that you don't overlook those as well.
So one thing I want to ask, because you're both entrepreneurs, obviously, Ryan being the CEO of Triangle Entrepreneur Leadership, as well as Jobs for Life, you being the CEO of Jay's Money Secrets, I wonder if you think that there is a responsibility to be financially literate as entrepreneurs. And so for those who are out there watching, is there a responsibility, in your opinion, as entrepreneurs to be financially literate? And if you think so, why or why not?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, and the word is simply stewardship, right? We were put here to be stewards. Jay just gave one of my favorite scriptures in teaching finances is the parable of the sower. And so as a steward, we own nothing, right? We are simply managers of what God has allowed us to be able to then steward. And stewardship is simply the application of how you manage that which you've been given. And so many of us are not being good stewards, not being good managers of what God blesses us with, because we are financially illiterate, right? And, I got challenged the other day. Somebody said, Ryan, you got to find another word. And I don't say that to be offensive. And I'm sure you don't ask it to be offensive. No. But illiterate just simply means lacking knowledge. Right? If we lack the knowledge to apply the principles to steward our resources. And being financial literate is so important to your question, because as Jay just said, God gives seed to the sower, right? He don't give seed to the one who spends the seed. Listen, what I love about that parable, and then I'm done. You messed up, Kim. You got two guys up here who it's biblical, right? So we can talk with all the confidence in the world. We're not talking about our own ideas. We're talking about principles. But here's the thing about it. Even the one who had the talents, and he just did nothing, right? He just held it and said, I took care of it and gave it back. He was like, oh no, dude, I'll holler at you. You gone. It's over with for you, right? Like, he didn't mess it up. He just did not multiply it. And by not applying that principle, he was cast in the fire. And so being financially literate is so critical.
Absolutely. And Jay, what about you? You want to add to that before we move forward?
Of course, I wholeheartedly agree. And keep in mind, people perish from the lack of knowledge, right? And ideally, your family, everyone that's connected to you, can perish because of your ability not to obtain financial literacy. It's our responsibility, because it's everybody want to be a good man, right? Mm-hmm. And when I say good man, I mean good man, good woman, right? But what does the word tell me about being a good man? He leaves an inheritance to his children's children. If I'm not financially literate, I can't leave no inheritance. So therefore, I'm not a good man. But everyone just told me that they want to be a good man. So we gotta take the responsibility to really understand what money is, because the word tells us what money answers how many things? Oh, things. Yeah, so a lot of times we get this concept that, hey man, we Christians, we believe in God, and he don't want us to have money. We should always be suffering and going through. But he told me that we should have life and life more abundantly. That's why he came. So yet again, money helps supplies those things. But we don't know those principles about the money, it's going to keep on taking away from us and giving to those that actually understand and understand, but most importantly, apply those particular principles. Yeah. So we all, especially those in our community that look like us, we have a responsibility to help close this wealth gap. So it is a responsibility for entrepreneurs to be financially literate and not just good at the craft.
Yeah. So that leads to my next question. What do you think has been the biggest barrier to economic success in minority communities? And then the second part of that is just in all communities in general with your experience, because I'm sure you're just not, coming across African Americans. So what is the biggest, do you think, economic barrier to financial success in the minority communities? We'll start with you, Jay, since we ended there.
Oh, man. I'm outside the box thinker. I'm outside the box. The number one, the biggest thing from us in our community is that we work too hard versus working smart. You should be thinking more than you're working. A lot of us want to, be our own boss, right? We want to fire our boss and become our own boss. That's ideal. When you fire your boss, you're leaving a job. Then once you become a small business owner, entrepreneur, those words can be used interchangeably. You now own a job. But we got to think about, like, what is a business? A business is a profitable entity that operates without me having to be involved in the day-to-day activities. So starting off, before getting into business, we got to look at the bigger plan, the vision. I always tell people, what do you want your eulogy to read? So once I know what the end is like, I can reverse engineer and start working my way backwards. So what is that? I'm starting a business A to leave to the next generation. Or I'm starting a business to B, build it up and to eventually sell it. The thing is, like, we don't have to go at this thing alone. I know we're talking about entrepreneurs, but I consider myself as an investor because I enjoy my time freedom as well as money freedom. So normally what I do, I use, wealthy people, what we use, we use leverage in order to achieve wealth. So what is that? Other people's money, other people's time, and other people's knowledge.
Yeah.
So now I literally sit back, I create, and when I think, not just working out hard and grinding out the muscle every single day. That's how we have to start off, but that's where we don't need to end up at. But the more we develop systems, the more banks lend money to us. The more we develop systems, the more people we actually hire. The more we develop systems, the more we get time to fulfill the purpose that God has for us in our lives. So I say that our thing is that we always got to get off the mud, secure a bag every single day, grind and hustle every single day. And we don't have to do that. Once we get that bag, we have to invest that bag and make that bag start working for us.
Get the bag, make the bag and work for us by investing. I love it. So Ryan, what do you want to add to that? The biggest barrier to financial success in the Black community, and then what you run into in other communities as well, especially in America.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many. And like Jay, I think outside the box. I like to focus on those things that I can control. And there's so many barriers that societal and all of those things, but I believe in the power of human potential, right? We can overcome these barriers that are in the way. So I don't want to be, not consider those things, right? We could be like, yeah, Brian, but okay, I get it. Yes, all those are there. But if I got to just narrow it down to one, I would say taxes. And I say that because my original thought is like knowledge, right? But okay, so now what do you need to be knowledgeable of, right? And so if I had to say there's one thing that is, because if you ask the typical person, and I've done this, I don't know how many times, what is your biggest expense, right? Because the key to building wealth, the key to financial success is simply a math equation, right? You got to have more coming in than you do going out, right? It's not what you make that determines your financial success. It's what you keep, right? And when you can figure out how to get back what's leaving, right? Now you're back in control of your finances. And taxes is one of those things that is absolutely the biggest expense, the biggest hindrance, the biggest barrier keeping people from financial success. That's in the Black community and in other communities. And if we don't understand that, we are simply allowing the government to stick their hands in our pockets without permission. They haven't signed off on any disclosure form. They just get to reach their hand in our pocket and pull out, on average, a third of our income, leaving us with 2/3 that then try to be able to go and live life. I won't even get into what we're doing with the other 2/3. But to stick to your question, Kim, I think it's the lack of knowledge and understanding how to keep what we make, and taxes is one of those biggest barriers to gaining financial success. I mean, think about it. I mean, you said it, Jay, entrepreneurship, business ownership, right away. If you understand that principle, you can get 20% of that back right away, right? Like more than that, right? But I want to talk realistic numbers. I want everybody to be like, nah, right? No, you can get give yourself a 20% raise by simply understanding taxes. That's my
absolutely
my answer.
Oh, Jay, I had to mute you because there was some feedback. What you say? Say that one more time.
I said, please let me add this here in reference to Brian said.
Go for it.
Like I said, tax is the biggest eroder and or hindrance of obtaining wealth. That's facts all day. Now, you mentioned that the tax code is in the 30th percentile right now. This is for a question. I need some comments. How high has the federal tax rate been within the last 60 years in the U.S.? Somebody give me a number. Now, Ryan just said it's about a third right now, but how high has the federal tax bracket been within the last 60 years?
I'm trying not to mess
I'm gonna give you 20
somebody
seconds.
up too bad, Jay. So I try to jumping off the bridge, right? Yeah, let's get some engagement. I'm curious to hear that as well.
All right. So for those in the audience, how high do you think the federal tax rate has been within the last 60 years? What percentage? We're talking about 30% right now. For anybody that's willing to guess, how high has the federal tax rate been within the last 60 years? And maybe there's some sort of a benefit to even guessing. I like incentives. So we'll see if anybody guesses. Let's give it 5 more seconds. And while we wait, not much time, right? While we wait, I do want to say this. So Ryan said that you feel like taxes are one of the biggest barrier. And then we're talking a bit about entrepreneurship. And so one of the financial tools, because I want to talk about some financial tools that can help to solve that problem. Jay, I'm gonna get you to answer that question because there's no engagement. I know there's people here, they just not
gonna say the spirit of fear, but love at the same time.
But so let's just go ahead and move forward. Let's answer the question and then give a solution. How can we solve that problem of overcoming that tax situation that is hindering so many?
All right, I'll go ahead and start off. Number one, it has been as high as 91%. 91%, which means you make $100,000, you get to take home $9,000. I'm sorry. There's also Social Security tax. There's also Medicare tax. There's also gas
Don't
tax.
forget.
Tax, food tax. Listen to this man. I told you, he's the expert.
Solution.
All right, so the solution.
Kevin said, start your own business.
Okay, there's solutions. There's different levels to this finance game. I'm gonna start at the end, and then we're gonna work our way back. All right. First of which, if you own nothing, you don't pay any taxes on nothing. But I have control over things. So what does Jay does? I operate out of trust, so I own nothing, but I control everything. So what is that? Understanding that expenses from a business could be deductible, or it gives you a tax break. When I operate out of trust, anything my trust owns and pays for is deductible. So now what do? We receive a paycheck after Uncle Sam, it's not my uncle, our homeboy Medicare and Social Security take their portion out of that check. What's left over is what I then go pay my bills with. But when I operate in a trust and a lot of business structures, all the money I make, I pay expenses, I get deductions, and then I pay tax on what's left over. But if you strategically know how to allocate certain funds to certain pots, then you pay no taxes. So number one, operating and understanding a trust, and then also having a business. I know Ryan is very versed with tax savings and benefits of having a business. So I'm going to step to the side and let Ryan take the mic.
Yeah, it's real simple. Well, I shouldn't say it's real simple. It's doable, right? So, you know, what Jay just said, and wherever you are in your financial journey, because we're all at a different place in this journey, the key is to reduce the amount of taxable income. How do you reduce the amount that the government can reach in and grab? And so, you know, without having the time to go into details, you know, Google's your mother today, right? Like, how do I reduce my taxable income? How do I reduce what the government is able to tax? You know, and we get into this thing, society will have us think wrong, right? I'm a firm believer in paying taxes, but only my share, right? I like having rescue and safe sidewalks and lights when I walk down the street. That's what our taxes does, the police. So I'm up just my share, right? And so, yes, there are loopholes. Thank God I learned this at the age of 19, Jay. 18 years old was my first time working a full-time job. It's the only time I have filed a straight tax return. I don't even know what you call it anymore. Ever since I've been 19, there's been at least a Schedule C attached to it where I've been able to deduct my business expenses, right? And so over the years, which reminds me, now that I'm talking about tax returns, if you are getting a huge refund back, guess what that means? You overpaid. Right? We shouldn't go. That's a whole nother episode.
Yeah, you about to hurt some feelings. Like
that's even in the notes.
That's free loan.
Sent you back $4,000. You way overpaid, right? To which they took that and earn interest on themselves. That's a whole nother conversation.
Or a good scam.
Or a good scam, right? So there's just that's why financial literacy is so important, right? And it's these things that it's just getting in the game, right? That we about to have somebody in jail. Well, yeah, right. That's why you got to pay taxes. That I made the disclaimer, Kevin, because you're right. They have a great program for people who don't pay taxes, and you don't want to be a part of that program. So anyway, I'm done. But how do you reduce taxes and understand that game? Not what society and your cousins and all them doing. No, understand the principles that govern these laws.
Understand the principles. All right, we're gonna dive in. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I love to educate, inspire, but also instruct. So several things, just some things to consider, as Ryan mentioned, using Google. Consider an HSA account, a health savings account. That's the only account that's simple tax-free. Number two, understand when I started LLC, out of the 5 years of operating as LLC, 3 of which I can take losses, and losses can occur when I buy more assets to invest into my business. Number 3, stop doing your own taxes. Hire someone to do your taxes. That's
especially if you're an entrepreneur.
Specifically, if you find someone that specializes in your industry, that's real good too. Now, a lot of people hear about these government retirement sponsor plans. Me being a licensed advisor since 2007, I understand these plans. They have their pros and their cons. Unfortunately, a lot of us thought these plans were created for our retirement savings, and it was actually a tax haven for those that were real wealthy previously in the past. So I'm not giving a recommendation, but if I had an opportunity to invest into some kind of retirement plan at my job, whether it's a thrift savings, a 401k, a 401a, a 457, I would potentially only put the amount that they're matching, that they're giving me. That's 100% return. Normally won't put any more money on there inside of those particular plans. But those are certain actionable steps that you can actually do to start saving on taxes immediately.
Strategies
are so great question. So you got some great answers, Kim.
Yeah,
that's a great question.
Strategies are so important to our financial next. Like we all have we should at least have an idea of what we want for our financial future. Maybe it's just for your kids, because some people can't even see what they want for themselves. So maybe it's for your kid, maybe it's for your parent. Maybe it's for somebody else other than you. But when you start to really look at you and just what you want for yourself, what are those things that you can implement, the strategies that you can implement in order to do something better? And that's what this is all about. So now we got to dive into debt. I have the book, The Debt Detox. Ryan talks a lot about debt in faith-focused finances. Jay talks a lot about debt and what he does on the business side. So we got to talk about debt. 2 points to debt. Okay, so this is question 1. Tell us how, fellas, if you agree that debt can be used to one's benefit. If you disagree, why? So I want to hear from, I know that it's 2 sides of the coin here, so that's why I had to ask this question. If you agree that debt can be used to one's benefit, why? Jump on in.
Let me start, and then I'll throw you the oop. All right. So first of all, the other side of that, Kim, I think we have to at least address is that, man, this great questions, right? There's so many avenues. So the whole good, bad debt thing, right? So debt is debt. Let's just be clear, right? Debt is debt, first and foremost. Debt can be used as leverage. Okay. So I'm gonna sit that over there on the shelf just as a second. But I want to address the issue though, that debt, it can also be the second largest barrier to financial success. So the way I describe it is that if you got a bucket, right? That's the next question. I'm jumping ahead. I'm sorry.
You fine. Go ahead.
If you got a bucket and you're trying to fill this bucket up with water, right? And the bucket has holes in it, right? So financially for people, those holes are taxes is one and debt is the other. And it doesn't matter how high you turn on the water, how quick the water comes into that bucket. If you got holes in that bucket, you're never going to fill that bucket up, right? And so depending on what your goals and dreams are, you got to close that hole first and foremost, right? So I believe that you got to get back to zero before you can ever even consider this other idea of debt because it's draining your productive capacity. As soon as it comes in, the average American, about a third of their income also goes out to service debt.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So we have Ryan's very careful answer, but very good answer. So Jay, now I would like for you to answer that same question. So there were two parts. So the first part was tell us how, if you agree that debt can be used to one's benefit. If you disagree, why? On the other side of that, which Ryan already dove into as well, tell us how, if you agree that debt can be detrimental. If you disagree, why? So have at it, Jay. How can debt be used to one's benefit?
Everybody take a seat. We've been on a journey. All right. All right. Answer to the number one question. Yes, debt can be used in one's benefits. There's a difference between debt and there's a difference between liabilities. So let's talk about the 1 second what a liability is. Something that takes money out of your pocket. Let's talk about what an asset is. Something that puts money into your pocket. If one uses debt to acquire assets, that's a benefit. If one acquires liabilities, as Ryan mentioned, now you're paying interest to someone else that's taking money out of your pocket, and now you're not even at zero, you're negative now.
Right.
My homeboy Robert Kiyosaki said that there's good debt and bad debt. And obviously those things, what we consider good debt is debt that would actually put money in your pocket, acquiring assets, and liabilities that take money out of your pocket. Now, let me give you a tangible, or let me give you an example. All right, so when I reach in my pocket, you see these things? These are credit cards, right? So let me show you, I ran the play and I had an individual say, Jay, this investment will get you 20% return on your money in 2 months. I'm starting to calculate the numbers. I'm starting considering what my risk may be. I'm trying to see that this makes sense for me. Now what? I have my money allocated because I have a plan for my money. If you have a plan for your money, it's going to follow somebody else's plan. So instead of me pulling my money out of my expertise, things that I do specifically, one of which investing and trading in the market, that's where I get the greatest returns. So I'm not going to pull my money out of there, but I'm going to go and use OPM, other people's money. So I went to the bank. I gave one of my credit cards. I said, move $40,000 into my checking account. They did that. The next day, the money was there. I then took that money. I wired it to, which was over $35,000. I wired to the individual after I got the contracts and did my due diligence, of course. And then 2 months later, I had to pay interest because the credit card got a 10% interest rate for the year. I had to pay about $450 in interest for borrowing using somebody else's money. But that contract was an asset. I got paid $7,000 in 2 months, not even using a dime of my money. That's why debt is beneficial if we use it the right way, but we don't know how to use it until we have financial literacy. So now with those that go get debt to go acquire a TV, a car that's not making you money, do it again for me, Ryan. You shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do it.
We had to pull up that other question. Go ahead, continue.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, debt is a beautiful thing that can be used if one uses it to generate income and or appreciation. It's a bad thing when we buy liabilities and we consume that debt.
Right. And that's the thing with mindset and education and why literacy is so important, because of the fact that you have that information, you know how to leverage it appropriately to your benefit. One of the things that we do is we see the green grass on the other side, but we end up turning it brown because we don't have the tools to nurture, fertilize, get the sod and all of whatever, aerate and all of that stuff when it comes to the educational component of how to make that grass green. And so that's one of the reasons why I think all of us are very leery when we talk about debt in that way, and why Ryan was so intentional with his words. You see all those expressions over there because of the fact that so many people are consumer mindset, especially in America and the African American community. And so we want to be sure that we don't tell people that, oh, go out and do this, that, or the other, and then they make mistakes that end up taking them down a path where they are just drowning in debt. And so thank you both for sharing. I mean, it was a perfect answer to the question. And so the next question that I want to ask you all, how does one's network or friends affect their financial success? We just talked a little bit about debt, somebody telling somebody, hey, you can do this, you can do that, without having the financial principles. Back to your word, Ryan. So, how does one's network or friends affect their financial success, in your opinion? And then, what has attributed to your financial success?
This all Ryan question. I'm gonna go on mute. I ain't gotta say nothing. He got this.
Well, first of all, let me start by saying, as I said in my introduction, I screwed it all up, right? By the time I was 70, by the time I was 27, by the time I was 24, actually, by the time I was 24, Jay, I was $70,000 in consumer debt, in bad debt, right? And this was the plan that I went out to start my life, right? In the hole, negative. And a part of that was because what I was applying to my life financially was because I learned from those with whom I had associated with, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why financial literacy is important? Going back to the original question, because we are taught by individuals who are financially illiterate, right? Our teachers, even 4 years, 5.5 of college, and then even into the real world, nobody is out giving us the playbook, right, of how to succeed financially. And so
Mm-hmm.
why is our peers or our association so important? When I give presentations, one of the first questions I ask, one of the first questions I ask is people to name their top five,
Mm-hmm.
right? Who are the five people you spend the most time with, right? Because statistics will say that you are the average of the
Mm-hmm.
five people you spend the most time with, spiritually, socially, relationally, financially, right? Because that's who you're getting your knowledge, your experience, your behaviors from.
Yeah.
And so if you want to change any of that, then you got to change your associations. There's a young lady, pretty good singer and dancer, that used to say, let me upgrade you, right? So you got to get upgraded, right, in your relationships, so you can be upgraded in other areas of your life. And so your associations are critically important. So how did I get out of that situation I was in? I changed my associations. I started
Yeah.
hanging out with people who had fruit on the tree, who were getting the results
Absolutely.
in their lives that I desired. And I was like, if he can do it, then I just got to learn how. Back to Robert Kiyosaki, right? The book that awakened me to this whole idea. 95% of people are on the left side of this quadrant, W-2, 1099s, right? The tax muse of the government, but only 5% of the wealth is there. On the other side of that equation, he said, are 5% of people, 95% of the wealth. I want to be on that side, but I don't know how, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I got to start hanging out with people on that side so I can understand the mindset shift, Kim, that you said earlier. How do I begin to change my thinking that thus changes my behaviors so that I can start getting some different results?
Absolutely. Jay, any words? Or are you good with that?
I'm perfectly fine with that. And if I can say anything, your net worth determines your net worth.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's a
That,
fact. So now let's talk about ways how I can increase it, how I can do that. Ryan just said it so perfectly. By their fruits, you should know them.
mm-hmm.
Well, like last night, what did I do? I went to boxcar, I went to bowling, and I went out to eat, and we're having a good time. And the person next to me is about to make $1 million this month. The person next to me made $100,000 in a day. The person next to me just quit corporate America and control his own schedule. I can go to the gym and work out by myself or with some friends, or I can go with those that have money.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to position yourself at a fancy restaurant where they hang at. Because you go order you a salad. While everybody else order an entree, you order you a salad. It just
Yeah.
happened to bump in. But as the word says, a man that's friendly will show himself friendly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I remember a meme that I saw years ago where it was a picture of people running from the broke person. And that was what it was saying. Like if you stay around broke people, you'll be broke. So everybody was running from the broke person. And so, I know that many of us are surrounded by people who don't have exactly what we want. And so it is important. And we may not have been taught by like our mother, father, what have you. So it is important to get around people that we can gain nuggets and wisdom from because we want to grow to another level. And that's what it's all about. We're having fun here, you all, but in the end, it is about really inspiring people to go out and define the life that you want so that you can go out and get it. And so be aware of the associations that you have. Are they serving you or not? And so we're going
Exactly.
to this final question because I think we're going to run out of time. What do you think is the most important financial tool that many people leave on the table or don't know about or understand that will ultimately be a legacy booster, something that they can leave to generations, not just their own personal habitat, but generations? What is that most important financial tool? We talked about financial literacy. Let's name another one.
Well, I'll start. Go ahead, Jay. I was going to
Oh,
go.
oh,
Go ahead.
Go ahead,
um,
Ryan. Oh, go ahead, Ryan, because I know you gotta. You might have to.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. I mean, so first and foremost, man. I mean, your shirt sums it up, right? God is dope, and without him, like I'm clueless, right? I'm out here drowning, right? And so and so of course that then points to the Bible, which we've already addressed. And I want to say something that just may be a little controversial, but you know, money is just one of those things we just don't talk enough about, right? Like we've created as this elusive thing that's just hard to get and to keep, but it's not the way it was set up and designed. We just don't know the rules to play by. There's a scripture that said, "The poor you shall have with you always," right? But what it doesn't say is that you got to be one of them, right? And so what does that mean then? Well, let me take responsibility for my life. And Kim, that's not an app. It's not something that I need Wi-Fi, but I think the financial tool is ownership, right? Let me take ownership for this financial responsibility in my life, because until we take ownership, you can create all the tools in the world. Right? Because the tools are out there, the information is out there. Why are people still broke? They haven't taken responsibility, right? They haven't set the goals and the dreams and sold out to legacy and taking care of their children. And we've just decided we're going to play on this strategy called hope, which is not a strategy, right?
Yeah.
I just hope everything. No, it's not how it works.
Yeah.
Right? And so we need to take responsibility. And when we take responsibility, right, then God honors that. And he says, all right, let's go to work now.
Absolutely. Jay?
All right.
That was good.
Yeah, number one, teaching, it's better to leave people the rules to gold than to leave them actual gold. Because if I teach you, and the same scripture goes, I'm going to teach a man how to fish, he'll eat forever. But if I give him a fish, he's only eat one time. So a lot of times we don't understand and document our life of how we got to where we got to. And these individuals, let's say they inherit money and they don't know what to do with the money. A fool and his money, sows the part. So leaving them the rules behind the goal. That's number one. Two, outside of that, it's I would definitely say helping them define what is a why and how to find their why/purpose in life. Because once you understand and find your why and your purpose in life, you have that emotional connection to something. And your why should not be a narcissistic or myopic viewpoint. So now we're put here to do good on this earth, to better the life of individuals and those that come in contact with us. So if I teach you the rules to the goal, and then also understand why your why, you use your money to fund your why. And then now you're not hoarding up money as though it brings some benefit to you, or you can take it to death with you, but you use that money for good. You got a lot of money, but I believe in artistic individuals. They don't have the same benefits or experiences that other people have in life. I can now create scholarships or donations to that. Not only can I present a present, but I can present my presence because I got money freedom and time freedom now. So the two things that I would definitely want to say is, helping people understand what their why is / their purpose, and showing them how to get that. But then also the rules to gold, the rules to making money, the rules to wealth.
Yeah, that's
And
so
Kim,
good.
If I can just leave something tangible, and Jay, I know you'll high five this, is begin to study and understand cash flow, right? How do you create cash flow into your home, right? Now, as I said earlier, though, you got to stop the leak, right? Because again, if it's coming in just as fast as it's going out, you still broke. Right? You make $1 million a year, you spend $1 million, you still broke. But as you develop the discipline to say, okay, how can let me start figuring out how to keep what I make, right? Let me plug those two holes in my bucket. Now, how do you get cash flow flowing into your home? Right. And there's so many ways to do that. And Jay's mentioned many, and he's such an expert in that space. So again, bro, I hope that's another high five to you. But like, how you get cash flow coming in the door, leveraging knowledge, leveraging experience, leveraging a skill, leveraging real estate, leveraging business, leveraging all these other tools. How do you get in cash flow coming into, how do you get cash flow positive, right? And then
Yeah.
now you're on your path to freedom. So that's just maybe a tangible goal that someone can begin to go after.
You know, Ryan, one of the things that has to happen, and we haven't dove in it too much, but I think it couples what you just said, having and what Jay said, having a vision for your future, having a why, having that long-term look at what you can potentially have,
Yeah.
and then delaying some, I want to go this, I want to do that, I want to, yeah, delaying some gratification, which is difficult for people. But discipline and excellence are possible for everyone. And so, really applying these are going to be good for everybody who's listening. As we close out, just you gave your last tip, Jay. You want to go ahead and give any sort of solid foundation as we close out for the evening?
All right, I think we kind of alluded to it on our call, but you need to invest more than you consume. Or let's say invest first. We always hear the concept of pay ourselves first. At the end of the day, you are your most valuable asset. Information that I implied into Jay Joseph is what I know now, what I do now, how my lifestyle is a vacation.
Mm-hmm.
Because why? I invested in myself years and years ago, and it's paying an exponential, infinite return what no other business or individual, no mutual fund, or no stock can ever do. So always invest in yourself.
Yep.
And then when you invest, make sure you invest more than you consume. Never be stagnant. Never be content. We were supposed to have this life more abundantly. And yes, you are made, you are worthy, you are deserving of more abundance.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Let's go. Well, I'm excited to, and I want to thank both of these gentlemen for joining me this evening. This has been a powerful, I think, conversation, and I hope for those who are watching that you were able to gain something from it. Please feel free, if you just joined, to go back and watch the replay. We have some good nuggets in this, what, not even an hour quite yet of time together. And so, if you're looking to improve your finances in 2022, the best day to start is today. And so let's make that commitment today to do something different. You can connect with Ryan. He's still continuing with the faith focused finances. I believe that class is wrapping up, but I'm sure he's going to have another one. You can connect with Jay. He is always having cohorts of some sort, and he's about to do some online stuff. Actually, he's already doing some online stuff. You can connect with myself. I have the Debt Detox books, which you can go to KimberlyWinborneLLC.com, do a self-study. But there are so many options and opportunities for you to improve. Now it's just up to you. It's up to you to tell yourself, yes, it's time. It's time for me to win. It's time for me to do this thing. It's time for me to create a legacy that I will be proud of. So once again, gentlemen, thank you for joining. You guys make sure to follow their social media. Jay Joseph at Jay's Money Secrets, Ryan Ray at Ryan Ray Official. Go and check out Ryan, especially because of the Year of the Black Entrepreneur, which is the shirt that he is wearing. I want to shout that out. There's an event coming up that anybody that's an entrepreneur, anybody that's not an entrepreneur that's aspiring will want to be a part of that community. So go check that out. All right, you all have a great rest of your evening, rest of your Tuesday, and we'll see you back here on the Collaboration Culture podcast very soon. Okay, have a great
Thanks,
night.
Kimberly. Always a pleasure, bro.
Thank y'all for joining.
All right. Thank you.